Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. What are you at? It's Paul from Wicked Acorn. Hello, Astrax. You're there already. Today, what is today? Today is the 17th of September. And yesterday, I left you with a photo to figure out where it was. And Astrax and 1234 got it right away. So, very little point in looking at that photo again, but we do have it here. We'll have a look at our photo and we'll get into this day in history. There's our little backdrop, and there's Edinburgh, of course. Everybody got that one. And this is our Where Is It photo for today. See if you can figure this one out. So I'll just leave that for a second, get myself a sip of tea. Because I keep forgetting this. Keep forgetting to mention that why did I do that? Forgot to turn that off. This weekend, Sunday, every third Sunday of the month, Sale Makers Market. Come by and check out our things. We make a lot of Manchester things. That's the Manchester Bee. And I can't wait to get into the new town hall when they reopen it. It's the biggest restoration in Europe, don't you know? So that is our photo for today. That will have some relation to tomorrow's video. Can you guess where it is? Well, let's talk about this day in history because it has something to do with Edinburgh. But before we get into the Edinburgh story, we've got this day in history in 1900. So in 1900, the Commonwealth of Australia is proclaimed. On the 17th of September, 1900, Queen Victoria issued a royal proclamation that officially established the Commonwealth of Australia. The proclamation federated the 6 separate British colonies of New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Tasmania, Victoria, and Western Australia into a single entity. While the proclamation was made in 1900, it appointed January 1st, 1901 as the date that the Commonwealth would officially come into effect. This milestone was the culmination of years of discussions and referendums throughout the 1890s in which the colonies voted on the proposed federal constitutions. We didn't even have to go to war to get Australia into the Commonwealth. And the key events related to the Federation: approval of the Constitution after intense negotiations in London. The British Parliament passed the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act on July 5, 1900, which received royal assent from Queen Victoria on July 9, 1900. Western Australia joins following its own referendum. Western Australia voted to join the Federation, ensuring it would be an original state alongside the other 5 colonies. The proclamation: Queen Victoria at Balmoral Castle in Scotland issued the official proclamation on this day in 1900 to formally establish the Commonwealth. And it was inaugurated on the 1st of January 1901. Inaugurated At Centennial Park in Sydney, Sir Edmund Barton was sworn in as the first Prime Minister. I've never been to Australia. I'd love to go to Australia. It's a long ways to go, but it's somewhere I've always wanted to go. And I'm kind of afraid to go there because I don't think I'll come back. I think I could. I think Australia would suit me, but you can only find out when you get there, right? Uh, Another Australian story. This is before 1900. In 1629, now this is kind of a gruesome story, so if you got children watching or you're a bit squeamish, you might not want to listen to this one. In 1629, the Dutch ship Sardam arrived, excuse my Dutch pronunciations here, at the site of the Batavia shipwreck off the coast of Western Australia and discovered that a junior merchant, Geronimus Cornelius, had led a murderous mutiny. So today in 1629, that's when the ship showed up to rescue these people, the wreck of the Batavia. Geronimus Cornelius had led a murderous mutiny. Over several months, Cornelius and his followers murdered approximately 125 men, women, and children out of the 300 initial shipwreck survivors. It was like a real uh, like the guy was nuts. He was just like some kind of it was like a Jonestown kind of thing. It was just insane. They just went mad and killed everyone. 125 men, women out of the 300 initial shipwreck survivors. The rescue by the Sardam, led by Commander Francisco Pelsaret, put an end to the horrific violence. It's a gruesome story. This is a tiny little island in the off Australia, and the wreck on the 4th of June, 1629, the Dutch East India Company ship Batavia ran aground on the Houtman Abrolhos Islands during its maiden voyage. Aboard the vessel were roughly 340 people, including sailors, soldiers, and civilians. After the wreck, about 300 survivors made it to the nearby Beacon Island. So it's a tiny, tiny little island. Tiny little island. And it's like a chain of islands. Um, a leaderless camp, realizing the dire situation of being stranded on barren islands with limited supplies, Commander Pelsaret and a small crew set off in the ship's longboat to seek help. This left the survivors without a clear authority figure, which allowed Cornelius to take control. And he ensued a reign of terror. He was a bankrupt apothecary fleeing Europe. Cornelius was a junior merchant on the Batavia. He had conspired with the ship skipper to mutiny before the wreck. After seizing command of the survivors, he implemented a tyrannical regime to gain complete control and seize the valuable jewels and cargo from the wreck. Madness. This is a crazy story. And I was looking for a Creative Commons copyright-free version of the video, and it's worth checking out. I couldn't find one, but it's worth checking out this story on YouTube because I can't go into all the details here, but it's a fascinating story. The massacre. Cornelius had most weapons and food supplies confiscated. He and his followers then began systematically killing other survivors. He was just a psychopath, like, and he convinced everyone else to do his bidding. It's a very strange, mad story, including the sick and weak, to conserve dwindling supplies. A group of about 20 soldiers led by Weeb Hayes Hello, baby with a laser. Uh, Weeb Hayes was sent to another island, so you can see there's a chain of islands. So he was sent to another island under the false pretense of searching for water and was left there to die. So a bunch of were sent to another island to find water. Well, that was the story. And basically, what he was doing was getting rid of the stronger guys, like some soldiers and stronger guys, get rid of them so he could, so they're out of the picture and he could just start doing this mass murder. Insane. It's an insane story. Um, so he left them there to die, brought them over in the boat, and took off and left them. And they were supposed to send up a smoke signal to let them know if they found water. Anyway, the resistance. Uh, However, Hayes' soldiers unexpectedly found fresh water and food on their island. And when they learned of the murderers, so someone else escaped on a raft and went to the other island. You can see they're really close together there in that first photo I showed you. Um, Somebody escaped on a raft and came over and said, "The boys are gone crazy, man. They're killing everybody." Uh, so they were terrified, the guys over on the other island, and they started building a stone shelter to defend because they knew they were eventually going to come for them. They armed themselves with makeshift weapons and built a stone fort. They fought off several attacks from Cornelius' men and managed to uh, capture Cornelius himself. So this is the fort they built, and it is the first building built by Europeans in Australia. Crazy. The So on this day in history, this is kind of bio tapestry. It's like on a sale. You can see in the bottom right there, and the other photos are just zoomed in on portions of the tapestry. Uh, yeah, oh man, this is a crazy story. You got to check it out on YouTube. It's a crazy story. Uh, so Pelserit, the captain or whatever, he showed up on this day in history in 1629. And he showed up, it's a real Lord of the Flies situation. They showed up, and they showed up the day that he went over to attack the other island. So there's a full out war on the go between the survivors he left behind. That's what he shows up. They both stop fighting, the both groups stop fighting and rush down to the beach to tell the captain their side of the story. Upon returning, so he showed up today, and his crew had reached Batavia. Jakarta is where he went to, and they were given the rescue yacht Sardam. And upon returning to the islands on the 17th of September 1629, Pelserat was greeted by both Hayes' men and Cornelius's mutineers vying for his attention. Hayes and his men reached the Sardam first and warned Pelserat of the bloody massacre that had taken place. After a brief battle to capture the remaining mutineers, Pelserat held a trial on the islands. Cornelius and 6 of his worst accomplices were executed on the spot. 2 other mutineers were marooned on the Australian mainland. The remaining perpetrators were taken back to Batavia for further trial and execution. Of the approximately 340 original voyagers, only 122 survived to reach their destination. Hayes was hailed as a hero and promoted, while Pelserat, though he salvaged much of the treasure, had his reputation tarnished by the events. Crazy story. Uh, like I said, that's just the surface exploration of the story. Check it out. the search for Batavia, Batavia shipwreck, Australia. So that is that. So there is our where is it photo for the next video. And we're going to talk about Edinburgh, why Edinburgh was our photo, where is it photo yesterday. Because today in history, on the 17th of September 1745, Charles Edward Stuart, also known as Bonnie Prince Charlie, occupied Edinburgh as part of his campaign to reclaim the British throne for his father, James Francis Edward Stuart. This event was a major turning point in the Jacobite Rising of 1745, also known as the 45. So this is the day he captured Edinburgh. So this is the whole start of the Jacobite Rebellion, this day in 1745. And he marched on, then he came to Manchester through Wigan, I believe. Yeah, so there's a bunch of events there about that. So I won't go into much detail about the Jacobite Rebellion. But what I'm going to do is show you a video that we did a while ago, and it is about the Eyebrow Cottage. And there's a lot in the video about the Jacobites, because there's not a lot of history about the Eyebrow Cottage itself. So the video was about what was going on at the time and what was going on outside the Eyebrow Cottage at the time. So we'll roll this, and I'll come in with some comments as we go.
Hi, it's Paul from Wicked Acorn. We're in St. Martin's, Ashton upon Mersey. It's not the oldest building in Sale, but behind here may be the oldest door in Sale. It's presumed to be from the church that was built here in 1304. During Cromwell's time in the early 17th century, troops fired upon people seeking sanctuary in the church. It does look like it's been through the wars. Are those buckshot holes? Some of the roof timbers may be from the 1304 church as well. The present church was built in 1714, but that's almost 50 years after the next place we're going to see. You'd be forgiven if you didn't notice this little structure as you drive along Cross Street. This is the oldest building in Sale.
It's the oldest building in Sale. It's the oldest building in Trafford.
It's now known as the Eyebrow Cottage due to the funny little arches over the windows. It was built around 1670.
Yes, the hauntedness of I have to pause this to get through the commercials here. Now, how did I do this before?
Action!
What do I do? I have to do this because the copyright nonsense. I got a copyright claim on a commercial from when we did this the other day, which is a nuisance. There we go. I've got it muted now. Yeah, the hauntedness of the Eyebrow Cottage is at the very end of this video. I talk about some of the hauntings that are mentioned. Not in great detail because I couldn't find a lot of great detail about stories about it. But there's one about a guy on a motorcycle and uh, bodiless hands washing in the sink. And anyway, there's all kinds of ghost stories about it, but I couldn't get any details about it. I guess it's the kind of thing you hear. It's not written down anywhere.
Cottage. Come on in.
Rachel Fox has a new business in the Eyebrow Cottage called My Skin Medics, a medically led aesthetics and wellness clinic.
I have been in the, it's called micropigmentation, which is tattooing. So I've tattooed eyebrows for around 13 years. So I've got 13 years worth of clients. And when we found this building, and it was obviously called Eyebrow Cottage, that was the omen for me to say, we found the right place. And then we went on to tell clients the new address, and they said, "We love that name. Yeah, we love that you've named it Eyebrow Cottage after what you do and what you're passionate about." I said, "No, it's actually called Eyebrow Cottage because of the brickwork above the windowsill." So yeah, it was the big tick to say yes, let's go here.
Yeah, she does eyebrows. It certainly doesn't look like a 17th century building on the inside, but they've kept the beautiful old timbers exposed so we can get a glimpse of what it would have been like here 350 years ago. There were still a few renovations going on when we visited, but the place is looking fantastic. Whether or not Eyebrow Cottage has eyes, it's certainly seen a lot of change happen. It was built here on the old Roman road between Manchester and Chester. It wasn't even called Sale back then. What we know as Sale was all farmland. By the 17th century, Sale had a thriving cottage industry producing girthweb. Now that's the part that attaches the saddle or wagon to the horse. The fields around Eyebrow Cottage would probably have grown flax or hemp that was woven into girthweb. The first tenants of
I have been. I'm working on a video about Sail Cruising Club, uh, and I put a photo in of um, anyway. You wouldn't believe how many times that car. I don't know the name of that car, that three-wheeled car, but you wouldn't believe how many times that car shows up in historic photos of Sale, like from what's that, 1985, that one. So like every photo from the 80s has that car in it. It's funny. It's I don't know if it's the same car. Was it a very popular car at the time? But there are so many photos of that car or that kind of car. And
Eyebrow Cottage could have been running a little industry, a bit like making car parts today. And that wouldn't be the last time that kind of thing went on here. Take note of the cornerstones or coins here on the back of the cottage. Somebody thought it was a nice quirky detail to use these sandstone blocks with layers of different colors. Or maybe it was a case of beggars can't be choosers, and that's why they put them on the back, out of sight. In 1806, it was owned by Joseph Atkinson. Thomas Haslam and his wife Betty rented the farm. In 1793, Joseph Atkinson bought Ashfield House and the surrounding land from Richard Earlham Grantham. Ashfield was near the junction of Cross Street and Chapel Road, so it's possible Grantham owned the Eyebrow Cottage in the late 18th century. When you think of Sale, you think of the Bridgewater Canal. But Eyebrow Cottage had already celebrated its 100th birthday when the canal came through Sale. That's Flora, one of the first engines on the Manchester South Junction and Altrincham Railway, going under the 40 Steps Bridge here in Brooklyn, Sale. By the time the railway came through here, Eyebrow Cottage was nearing its 200th birthday. A little known fact about the history of Sale: this is the first and only elephant crossing in the country. It's a little unfortunate it's been replaced with this puffin crossing.
Ricky Hatton? Don't know that name. Yeah, sure. I'm not really doing ghost stories here, but yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing them. And a Reliant Robin, yes, I knew that name. That was stored in my brain somewhere, but I couldn't conjure it up. Um, yeah, it's in so many photos of Sale from that time period. It must have been a very popular car, or the guy who owned it was a very popular or driving around a lot guy. Let's see, I got to get through this advert here. So if I silence it there, I think that's what I need to do. And yeah, you can't hear it there. Good. So yeah, it's funny that crossing in front of Eyebrow Cottage is, I joke that it's an Enva car. Okay. Um, Three-wheeled vehicles aren't very stable, are they? Must have been easier to get in and out of somehow. Um, the It wasn't the Robin. Um, this photo here is right in front of the Eyebrow Cottage. It's from 1902 or something like that. Um, it's it was the end of the Boer War, so that's right in front of the Eyebrow Cottage. That is, it's not in the photo, but you can recognize the house next door from other photos. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, another coincidence. Today in history, the first naval ship left to go to the Boer War. This day in history, the Royal Navy set off to go fight in the Boer War. So let's see, how do I get back to here? Why is it muting that one? I don't mean to be muting that one. Okay, hopefully this is going to play now.
Yep, Those are elephants. And this photo was taken in 1902, right outside the Eyebrow Cottage. You can't see it in this photo. It's just off camera by those trees on the right, next to the White House. It was to celebrate the end of the Boer War.
And you'll find a lot of photos taken from this spot. So I imagine not a lot of people owned a camera back in this time. So I'm thinking whoever lived at that house here behind us, where the photo is taken from, you'll find a lot of photos taken from this vantage. So this guy owned a camera, whoever lived at this place.
In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, there were traveling circuses all over the country. The elephants were borrowed from the Savage South Africa show, a name we hopefully wouldn't choose today. They reenacted battles with the Zulus and had an array of exotic animals, including 6 elephants, 7 lions, and 8 tigers. An interesting aside, one of the African participants in the show went on to live in Scotland. He was later executed. A story I think we'll be coming back to. One of the elephants was taken to the veterinary surgeon on Dane Road for treatment and later died. It's buried somewhere in Sale. The procession also included an ox. Reminds me of the restaurant at the end of the universe. It seems a little strange to parade an animal through the streets with a professionally painted sign saying, "I will be your dinner," but it looks like a wonderful atmosphere. Just imagine what's gone on outside these windows. It was feared that the Jacobite army led by Bonnie Prince Charles Edward Stuart would march past here on his way to seize Manchester. The Liverpool Blues.
There are a lot of Jacobite stories around Sale. Uh, you guys are getting old on me, are you? Um, a lot of Jacobite stories around this area, and I think it's probably um, there are a lot of Catholics in the area, and it was a bit of a Catholic thing, wasn't it? And yeah, there were a lot of Jacobite sympathizers in this area, and the Jackson's Boat pub, which a lot of haunting stories about that place as well. We were hoping to get in there, myself and Rick Ainsworth. Rick worked on this video as well. Uh, we're trying to get into the well, not get into the Jackson Boat, but we had a interview set up with some guys there, and it fell apart. But yeah, there's a Jackson's Boat was believed to be a rendezvous for Jacobites. Do you know the legend of the Jacobite soldiers being buried on the golf course in Northenden? No, there are a lot of Jacobite stories around this area. The Manchester mummy, Hannah Beswick, um, I can't remember where she was from. Um Hollandwood, somewhere around there. Uh, she there's a story about her that she hid all the family gold uh, with the Jacobites coming, hid it away so the Jacobites wouldn't take it from them. And yeah, the Jackson's Boat was supposed to be a rendezvous where they would do their plotting. So Hopefully someday we'll get in and get that story.
For a regiment raised in the county of Lancashire to resist the Jacobites. On the 26th of November, 1745, they tore up Crossford Bridge to slow the Jacobite advance. It was of little use. The Jacobites entered Manchester from Wigan. There were Jacobite sympathizers in Sale, as we'll see in future videos. So, depending on the sympathies of the residents of the Eyebrow Cottage, and whether or not they had children at the time, they may very well have hidden them away in fear of the Jacobites. It was said they were cannibals, particularly fond of the flesh of infants. There's an account of one woman hiding her children in a cupboard.
Advert. Have to skip through the advert. Now, how do I mute this without muting the other one? That seems to mute both of them. Let's see here. Yeah, see, it's muted both of them. How do I get around that? Okay, that's something I need to figure out.
While Charles was in Manchester, he issued this curious proclamation. To the inhabitants of Manchester, His Royal Highness being informed that several bridges have been pulled down in this country, he has given orders to repair them forthwith, particularly that at Crossford, which is to be done this night by his own troops. Though His Royal Highness does not propose to make use of it for his own army, but believes it will be of service to the country, and if any forces that were with General Wade be coming this road, they may have benefit of it. Manchester, November 30th, 1745. The last line is a dig at General George Wade. They called him Grandmother Wade, and it was said he couldn't wade through snow. Do you see any resemblance? Who knows? He may be a relation. Wade was commander-in-chief of the British forces during the Jacobite Rising of 1745. He had a distinguished career, but at 72, he was a little long in the tooth for this campaign. A few wrong place, wrong time decisions saw him replaced after the Bonnie Prince slipped by him.
Yeah, the General Wade, we share the same surname. I don't know if he's a relation. I don't think he had children. Um, but this photo here is from Outlander. Is that the name of the movie? So I found this. Good evening, 1, 2, 3, 4. I found this photo, and I had no idea St. Wilfrid's Church in Northern. Right. Yeah, that's worth looking into. Um, this is for, I think it's called Outlander. I'm so terrible with names of shows. Uh, anyway, I ended up watching this. I was like, where is this photo from? This is just a photo I grabbed of, I didn't know it was from that TV show Outlander. And I ended up watching it, and they've redone it, so I found it, I like historical dramas. I like those. They're a bit of fun. And the new one about Hastings, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it got too romancy for me. Started to turn into a soap opera, and I lost interest in it. But it's a good show. It's still worth watching, I guess. Um, yeah, the first few seasons are all about the Jacobites, which was what caught my interest. So I ended up watching a lot of that, and yeah, it's an interesting show. Um, and they've redone it now, a new version of it.
Twice. But before all that, fueled by anti-Jacobite sentiment, an extra verse was added to God Save the King in 1745, specifically mentioning him. He has the rightfully so, usually left out verse. If I may be so bold, as an outsider and a possible descendant of General Wade, it's time to get rid of that verse. If Canada can change its national anthem over something much, much, much less offensive, you can too. But I might add, all they did was change 2 words. It used to go, "O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command." Or at least it did, until the second line was officially altered to read, "in all of us command." And that took 30 years. And you wonder why it takes so long to fill a pothole. On the 1st of December, the Army left Manchester in 2 divisions. One took the road to Stockport, the other to Knutsford. At Crossford, a temporary bridge was made of poplar trees. The horse and artillery passed at Cheadle Ford, and the Prince with the other detachment crossed at Stockport. Their intention was to deceive the authorities into believing that the Jacobites were heading for Chester. The feint was successful, and the main Jacobite army later marched south through Cheadle and Stockport.
Yeah, they that was one of the things that got General Wade replaced. They went through Knutsford. The whole proclamation thing was a ruse to make General Wade and the forces, the British forces, think they were headed for Chester, and it worked. So they slipped by General Wade and headed off to London. And he didn't get the backing he had planned on. The Pretender or the Bonnie Prince, whichever you prefer. And they turned back, and of course, never worked out very well for them, did it? And that's the whole premise of the Outlander television series. Mrs. Mrs. comes from the future and goes back in time to the 1740s, and they're trying to stop the Jacobite rebellion because she knows what happens at Culloden, and she's trying to save her husband. Anyway, it's an interesting story, an interesting premise. Um, okay, are we past the advert there? Yes.
The people in Eyebrow Cottage rushed up these stairs, seeking relative safety on the first floor, to watch the Jacobite army march along here. Just imagine how long it would take for a couple of thousand Jacobite soldiers to march past here. There's the other end of one of those X things on the front of the building. It's called an anchor plate, but they go by a variety of names. It helps tie the building together. They're not in the earlier photos, and they show up around 1999, but could have been installed in the late 1980s when the building was being restored or renovated. It's always bothered me that they aren't symmetrical. Everything you read about Eyebrow Cottage refers to it as a yeoman cottage. Now that's one of those words I've heard 1,000 times and never really given it any thought until now. You usually hear the words yeoman archer or longbowman, so I just assumed it had something to do with archery and just kept on reading. Look it up on Wikipedia. It's great fun to see such a simple little word with such a long entry. For all intents and purposes, it means a farmer, or maybe the little people, as Mr. Mogg might refer to them. And that's what Eyebrow Cottage was, a farmer's cottage. Nothing and no one of great importance happened at Eyebrow Cottage. History happened more outside its doors, with the possible exception of John Moore. At the beginning of the 19th century, the invasion of Britain by Napoleon was a real fear. The Civil Defense Force had to be expanded. By 1803, more than 380,000 men were acting as volunteers in home-based cavalry and infantry regiments. 1 in 4 adult males in Britain was in uniform by the early 19th century. One of these men was John Moore. In 1803, he formed the Ashton-upon-Mersey and Sale Volunteer Force. Volunteers signed on here at the Plough Inn. 3,000 men volunteered to defend against Napoleon. This was at a time when Sale had a population of under 1,000, so they probably came from far afield. You'll find mention that this John Moore lived at Eyebrow Cottage, but I think it's unlikely. There were too many John Moores in the history of Sale in the same time period. So I'm going to make a leap in logic here. Candidates were everywhere invited to join for the defense of His Glorious Majesty King George III and the preservation of our happy Constitution in church and state. All lads of true Cheshire blood, willing to show their loyalty and spirit, were invited to repair to the Plough at Ashton-on-Mersey, or to Captain Moore at Sale Hall, Sale, where they will receive high bounties and soldier-like entertainment. Now for a stroke at the Mounseers, my boys. King George forever. Huzzah, John Moore. John Moore owned Sale Old Hall and Sale New Hall. I think it unlikely that the John Moore who lived on Cross Street, the corn dealer and shopkeeper, who had his premises and possessions seized and auctioned off, and may have ended up in a lunatic asylum in Manchester, is the same guy who became a captain and formed the Sale Volunteers.
So that's actually going to require further investigation. I was really hesitant to say that John Moore. I'm fairly certain that he didn't live in Eyebrow Cottage, but he may have owned it, which is not unusual because he owned like a quarter of Sale. He owned a lot of land there, but he may have owned it because the ties maps have recently come online, and it looks like he may have owned the property, but I don't think he lived there. John Moore is an interesting character. Now, most people in the chat here are not from Sale, so it's probably the whole Eyebrow Cottage aspect of this, and John Moore at Eyebrow Cottage is not of interest. But he is a very interesting character, this John Moore, because he was the chief constable of Manchester after all this Sale and Ashton-on-Mersey volunteer things. He was became chief constable of Manchester, and he was involved with the Peterloo massacre. And I've mentioned this a few times to other people. The movie Peterloo, he's not in the movie, and the arrest warrant that they hand off to go arrest Henry Hunt, the speaker at Peterloo, which kicks off the whole massacre, was handed to John Moore, and John Moore handed it to Constable Naden, the guy underneath him, his subordinate, I guess, to go enforce the warrant, the arrest warrant. And he's not in the movie. This John Moore character is not in the movie at all. Now Naden was like the henchman. He was the guy that did all the dirty deeds, but he was under the command of John Moore. So it's a shame they didn't put him in the movie. He could have just handed the note off just for historical accuracy, but he's not in there. And you'll find his testimony is in the hearing after the Peterloo massacre, and yeah, for sure he was there in the room with the magistrates and was handed the arrest warrant. So he was an important character in Manchester history and the history of Sale too, of course.
Here pub, originally the White Lion, is across the road from Eyebrow Cottage. It was probably named in deference to the local defence unit known as the Ashton-on-Mersey Come Sale Loyal Volunteers, formed by John Moore. In 1808, the threat of war was over and the unit eventually disbanded in 1811. Later, Moore was to be involved in the famous Peterloo massacre, in which he commanded a troop of yeomanry.
Make the most of
Adverts. Could have been talking over the while I'm trying to get rid of these adverts. I don't know why I can't. Don't know what to do about that. I'll have to figure out how to do that. I thought I had that solved before. It's such a nuisance. The Buster Keaton video we watched the other night. There was a copyright claim on that, and it was blocked in a couple of countries. No big deal. That stuff doesn't bother me, but it does bother me. It's a nuisance. Anyway, I've disputed the claim because the movie is in the public domain. It was made in 1923. Anyway, these adverts get copyright claims. It's horrible. It's something really needs to be done about it, but what am I going to do? All I can do is do what I'm doing. But that's why, because right now I have a warning on my channel for another video when I was testing. Anyway, I don't want to go into all the details of it. I got a warning about which could have been a copyright strike. And when you get a copyright strike, if you get 3 copyright strikes, they erase your channel. You're gone. Poof, gone. Your channel exists no more. But when you get a copyright strike, you can't live stream, you can't release new videos, so you're shut down for 30 days. So I don't want that to happen. So trying to avoid this stuff as much as I can until that warning is gone. That warning is a few weeks before that goes away, and then it resets. So yeah, it's absolute nuisance, this whole copyright nonsense. Imagine claiming an advert. It's like, it's so stupid. Okay, how do I do this now?
Ironically, the oldest building in Sale was involved in one of the newest high-tech scams. A former occupant was stealing people's personal information online and selling it to marketing companies. The company was fined £20,000 and issued with a legal notice compelling it to stop sending unlawful texts. Don't forget to check out our webpage where you can find a beautiful print of the Eyebrow Cottage by Wicked Acorn. And if you want to get your eyebrows done, head on over and tell them that Wicked Acorn sent you. What old building from the 18th century would be complete without a ghost story?
So I also believe the building is haunted. Apparently, we have a TV series called Coronation Street, and apparently some of the cast of Coronation Street actually slept here overnight to see if there was any strange goings on. Many people have contacted me on Facebook when I was advertising the business, asking me, well, telling me it was haunted, but I haven't felt any strange goings on. My friend, she's very in touch with her sixth sense, so she does have a feel for people from the other side, let's say. And she came in and she just said it had a really, really nice feel about it.
A pair of bodiless hands washing up at the sink. Just hands. A mirror that holds the reflection of an old lady in a rocking chair that is never there when you turn around to look. Its previous use as a funeral business doesn't help. Footsteps heard on the staircase, but nobody there. A toilet being flushed when there's no one around. And a motorcyclist who walks through the door, then disappears. Local ghost hunting groups have been in the Eyebrow Cottage, but no one has heard of them since.
We are now.
So she's talking about her business there, and thank you to Rachel for allowing us into the Eyebrow Cottage. She's still there. She's doing well, I hope. Yeah, you notice in these photos that it wasn't symmetrical there, like the other side is like stuccoed over or whatever until here. And you can see it's the eyebrow on the right is new. And it was put there in the 80s, I guess, when they refurbished it or whatever. And it's not quite right. It's not the right shape as the other two on the left. And it makes me wonder if Eyebrow Cottage is a new name, because I don't think you'd call it Eyebrow Cottage if it only had one. Even though eyebrow is singular, I don't think you would call it Eyebrow Cottage if it only had one eyebrow. It's like when you see it like that, you can see coming up with the name Eyebrow Cottage. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. But Withington, I've lost the chat here. Those are interesting stories there. Withington, wasn't John Alcock? Didn't he go to school in Withington? John Alcock? Pretty sure he did. He's from that area. I don't know if he's lived in Withington or went to school there. Something to do with Withington for sure. Yeah, he definitely has some connection to Withington. John Alcock, the first non-stop transatlantic flight. Him and Alcock and Brown, Arthur Whitten Brown. He lived in Chorlton. They only lived like a mile apart or a couple of miles apart, but they didn't meet until after the First World War. But pretty sure John Alcock was in Withington somewhere, had some connection to Withington. But those are interesting stories. They're definitely worth looking into. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there you go, John Alcock. He should be world famous. It's he's kind of been forgotten. Like everybody thinks Charles Lindbergh. Like they've kind of forgotten about Alcock and Brown. Not not in my part of the woods because they left from St. John's, Newfoundland. That's where they left from. So they're a big part of St. John's, Newfoundland history. So I've knew about them my whole life growing up. Um, so that was enough of that for today. But oh, there's Rick. Rick worked on this video as well, and listening to Rush in Derby and Fallowfield. Nothing wrong with it. Uh, yeah, Rick sent me a message. There's a video coming up soon, a video adventure anyway. I don't know much about it. It's something Rick set up, so I'll let you know when I know. Um, so that is our video for today. Our photo, where was our photo? To see if anybody could figure out where the photo is. This one here, right? I'll show you one more time before we go. See if anybody can figure out where this is. So we'll be doing, yes, I've heard the joke. It's Sammy Davis Jr., is it? Yeah. Um, the This will be in relation to tomorrow's video, if you can figure out where this is. So, thanks for joining in. It's the Sailmakers Market the weekend, so spread it round. I'll be at the Sailmakers Market every third Sunday of the month, and it's this weekend as we speak. It's the 17th right now, 17th of September, so whatever day is the third Sunday of this month, this Sunday coming. Drop by, say hello, and tell your friends. That's how we keep the channel going, selling our mugs and coasters and things. And if you can, you guys are great. Thanks, everybody in the chat here. I don't have to. Yes, it is somewhere in Canada. But if you could, on any videos of mine that you watch, leave a comment. It helps out to get get it thrown around, get it passed around. Uh, Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. But yeah, please leave a comment. You don't have to leave a big, long comment. Just type an X. There's some guy, Jamie, who just types an X, and that's fantastic. Just interaction with the channel, you know, likes and leaving comments and stuff like that makes it makes YouTube send it to more people to have a look at. And that's the only incentive we get, isn't it? People liking and subscribing and joining in the chat. So that was a bit of fun. We'll find out what that photo of Canada is tomorrow, and see you in the next one.